Welcome to my channel. I'm Scott, and in this video I'm going to walk you through the process of valuing Boyd Gaming stock by analyzing their financial statements and dissecting their financial ratios so we can determine if it's a buy or a sell. Let's get started with the model. This is a mid-cap company, 5.7 billion market cap. They're trading at $68 a share and they have 84 million shares outstanding. Boyd Gaming operates casinos and hotels in the US and Canada. It also operates Boyd Interactive. That's an online casino as well as a travel agency. It was founded in 1975, headquartered in Las Vegas. Let's look at their financials. The way you value a company is you estimate the free cash flows into the future and then you discount those numbers back to today's value. That's what we're doing in this video. And free cash flow is cash flow from operations minus capital expenditures. So their free cash flow has gone down from 800 million to 557 million. It's up a little bit from 2023 to 2024, up 3%. Pretty good margins, although going down. It was 24% in 2021, now it's 14%. Free cash flow margin is the percent of their revenue they convert to free cash flow. Net income is the profit or loss on the income statement. It's revenue minus expenses. That's fairly steady. It did peak in 2022, 639 million. It's down to 578 million. And margins in the mid to high teens, 14 to 18%. Revenue is a sales for the company, and that steadily goes up, but not up a lot, from 3.4 billion to 3.9 billion. They do pay a dividend on the smaller side, 1%, which they can cover 9 times with their free cash flow. We estimated 4 years of future free cash flows. We also estimated a terminal value to all cash flows past year 4, that's 8.2 billion. We discounted those numbers back to today using the weighted average cost of capital. We get a value of the company of $7.2 billion. We divide that by 84 million shares. And we get a calculated stock price of $86. They're trading at $68, so they're trading at a 21% discount. It's a buy according to the model. There are 18 companies in the same industry as Boyd, and if they have a number in red, they're worse than the median. If they have a number in blue, they're better. They spend 400 million in CapEx, which is higher than the median average. They are a bit leveraged, but much better than the average. The average is 5, they're at 2.4. That means for every dollar of equity, $2.40 of debt. Of the companies that pay a dividend, they pay the lowest, tied with Monarch. Look at Vail Resorts, 4.2%. Free cash flow, 557 million, that's higher than median average. They rank 6th in market cap, a little more than the average. Las Vegas Sands is number 1 at 32 billion. They have a big market cap. And all their price multiples are really attractive. They're trading at 10 times earnings, which is the best on this list. 10 times free cash flow. Melco Resorts is the best at 6.6. and 1.5 times revenue. They generate 3.9 billion of revenue, which is the median, lower than the average. MGM is number 1 at 17 billion. Their revenue growth is lower than the median average. This should be red. Caesars is number 1 at 35%. And the stock price is 68, which is closer to their 52-week high, 14% below the 52-week high, 36% above the 52-week low. If you put $10,000 into this company 10 years ago and reinvested the dividends, you would have been flat by 2020. But if you still held on, you'd be at $50,000 today, a 17% annual return. To summarize, I have them trading at a 21% discount. I give them a ranking of 7 out of 10. It looks pretty attractive. Short term, I'd probably buy it 6 out of 10. I think it's a good long-term play. I do like this company. Ratios look great. Amazing PE and price to free cash flow, 8 out of 10. Financials are okay, 5 out of 10. Revenue is up each year, but free cash flow is going down. Let's take a look at their income statement. Here's their 10K. They show us 2022, 2023, and 2024. You can see revenue goes up each year from 3.6 to 3.7 to 3.9 billion. And they give a breakdown of the revenue. 2.6 billion is gaming revenue. Food and beverage, 300 million. Rooms, 200 million. Online, that's a pretty big chunk, 600 million. And that went up well over 100% since 2022. 250 million to 600 million. 100% is 500 million. So maybe like 130% growth. Management fees, 88 million, and other 140 million. Management fees is the fees for managing the properties. Here they give a different breakdown of the revenue. Of the 3.9 billion, 900 million is Las Vegas locals, 230 million is downtown Las Vegas, 2.1 billion is Midwest and South, online 600 million. Then they have managed and other, $135 million. So the biggest segment is the gaming revenue in the Midwest and South. That's $1.7 billion. So Vegas is not their biggest revenue. I thought it would have been Vegas, but it's not. 30, 40 years ago, Vegas, definitely. But now casinos are popping up all over the place. Initially, it started in Vegas because it was legal. Then Atlantic City. But this is several decades ago, I'm talking. Now with Indian reservations and other types of casinos, they're all over the place. Not to mention the online. Let's go back to the income statement. Below revenue are expenses, $3 billion of expenses. Gaming expenses, they have to pay the dealers, that's $1 billion. Food and beverage, they have to buy the drinks, $250 million. So food and beverage, the margins aren't so great. Revenue, $300 million. Expenses, $250 million. Room, $78 million. That has good margins. Revenue, $200 million. Online, $500 million of expenses, $600 million of revenue. But then they have other expenses like SG&A, which is marketing, rent, $111 million, maintenance, $148 million, depreciation, $276 million. So operating income is revenue minus expenses, which is $927 million, which is down from 2 years ago. 2 years ago was $980 million. They spend $177 million of interest on their debt. So their net income, $577 million, which is down from last year. And last year was down from the year before. But they're buying back stock. 2 years ago was 109 million shares outstanding. Last year, 101 million, now 93 million. So their EPS is actually up, even though their net income is down, because they're buying back stock. EPS, earnings per share, which is net income over shares outstanding, went from 587 to 612 to 619. That's a nice growth. Current assets, $560 million. Current liabilities, $622 million. So their current ratio is below 1. That's not good. They have a lot of cash, $316 million of cash. Accounts receivable is how much money other companies owe them when they sell on credit, $132 million. Inventory, $21 million. Prepaid expenses, $56 million. This is when a company makes an advance payment for a product or service they're going to receive in the future. Their total assets, $6.4 billion. Their biggest by far is property and equipment. The physical real estate, that's a big portion of their revenue, $2.7 billion. Also land. Here's a breakdown of the $2.7 billion. Land is $338 million. Building and improvements is a big one, $3.4 billion. Furniture and equipment, $1.9 billion. So the gross value is $5.7 billion. They depreciated $3.3 billion. So the book value, the net value is $5.9 billion minus $3.3 billion, $2.7 billion, which is up from last year of $2.5 billion. Their second biggest asset is intangibles, $1.4 billion. A lot of goodwill as well, $957 million. Their biggest liability is long-term debt, $3.1 billion. Here's a breakdown of the long-term debt. $1.3 billion in a credit facility, 6.2% interest rate. $1 billion of 2027 senior notes. The interest rate is 4.75%, which is a good interest rate. Another $900 million of senior notes. These are 2031 senior notes, same interest rate. Assets minus liabilities equals equity, $1.6 billion of equity. They profited $1.6 billion from running their business. And additional paid in capital is zero. So I guess they bought back so much stock, they brought their additional paid in capital down to zero. Let's look at the statement of cash flows. Operating cash flow is how much cash the company generates from running their day-to-day business. That's pretty consistent, between $900 million and $1 billion each year. Then there's the investing section, CapEx, when they buy real estate or land, $400 million this year. Last year, $370 million. Before that, $270 million. And this year, they had a $30 million cash outflow from acquisitions. Let's see if they talk about the acquisitions. What company or property they acquired. It looks like they acquired Resorts Digital Gaming. In September 2024, they acquired this company. I'm looking for how much they paid. Okay, it's down here. $34 million. So it looks like they paid $34 million. The actual cash paid was $30.3 million, which matches a statement of cash flows. You can see right here, $30.3 million. So for the acquisitions that required cash, this appears to be the only one for 2024. You could acquire a company without cash. You can give stock to a company in lieu of cash. Or you can give a combination of cash and stock. In the financing section, they added $1.8 billion of debt. They reduced their debt by $1.5 billion. They bought back $685 million of their own stock. Last year, $400 million. Before that, $540 million. So they always buy back a lot of stock. Let's look at a stock on Simply Wall Street. Its last price 68, 5.7 billion market cap, down 1% in the past week, up 8% in the past year. It looks like the stock started trading in 1993, around $19. You can see it definitely moves around a lot. 5 years after IPO, from 1993 to 1998, it went from 19 to its lowest ever. In October of 98, it fell below $3. An amazing time to pick it up, because from 1998, it went from 3 to 50 by 2005. Hopefully you didn't buy it in 2005 when it crossed 50. 3 years later, the Great Recession brought it down to below 5. That was in 2009. Then it traded sideways for a few years, and by 2013, it was 646. By 2018, it went to 35. Then it fell again during COVID to 12. That was in April 2020. And then over the next year, it went from 12 to north of 60. That's in mid-2021. And then from mid-2021 to mid-2024, it pretty much stayed the same. It traded sideways over those few years. It did reach its all-time high recently. It almost hit 80 in February 2025. And it's come down from that peak, from 80 to where it is now, slightly below 70. Simply Wall Street thinks the stock is overvalued. Their valuation is 47, 44% overvalued. You could look at the data they use to calculate that 47. Right here, data. And they show you the discount rate, 9.5%. That's the rate they discount the future free cash flows. That's what I call the WACC, weighted average cost of capital. And they show you the forecasted free cash flow for the next 10 years. So 5 analysts project 2025 free cash flow, $438 million. When you discount that back to today, it's $400 million today's dollars. And the next 10 years of discounted cash flows is $2.2 billion. The terminal value, $4.4 billion, but you have to present value that, so it's $1.8 billion in today's dollars. So $1.8 billion plus $2.2 billion is the value of the company, $4 billion. And then you take $4 billion, which is right here, divided by 84 million shares. That gives you a stock price of 47. So that's why they say it's 44% overvalued, because their projection is 47, it's trading at 68, so it's overvalued according to their analysis. 13 analysts priced this stock at 84, almost double Simply Wall Street. They say it's undervalued. Here's their revenue since 2014. It was $2.9 billion. And then it came down and it was trading at a lower level, $2 billion, up to $3.3 billion in 2019. Then COVID came, it fell to $2.2 billion again. Then it reached its all-time high, growing since then. And their revenue for 2024 is their highest ever, almost $4 billion. Here's their debt since 2014. It was $4.3 billion. The peak was in mid-2020, probably from COVID, $4.9 billion. But they did bring it down. Now it's $3.2 billion. Equity is always lower than their debt. Equity currently $1.6 billion. So their debt is almost double, almost exactly double their equity. The green line on the bottom is the cash. They have $300 million of cash on their balance sheet. Almost exactly 10% of their debt. Because if the average interest rate is 5%, then they have enough cash to service the debt. Here's their dividend yield since 2017. It was 0.8%. The highest was 1.2% in mid-2024. The forecast is 1% by 2027. Here's their dividend payments. They paid 5 cents a share in mid-2017, and they kept it at 5 cents in September 2017. Still 5 cents, 5 cents. They brought it to 6 cents in June 2018. 6, 6, 6, 6, up to 7 cents in mid-2019, 7, 7, and they did not pay any dividends in 2020 or 2021. They brought their dividend back in 2022, and they raised it to 15 cents, and they kept it at 15 cents for a few quarters, 16 cents in the first quarter of 2023, 16, 16. Looks like they raised it each year, 17 cents in the first quarter of 2024, and 18 cents in the first quarter of 2025. The CEO got paid $1.3 million in 2018. It came down to $1.2 million in 2020, but now it's almost $1.6 million currently. He's been with the company a long time, 20 years, compensation $11 million. A lot of insider selling in the past year, no buying. 100,000 shares sold at $78. Another 100,000 sold at $71. William Boyd. These are all the shares sold in the past year, nothing purchased. 69% of the companies owned by institutions, 26% by insiders, and 5% by private companies. The biggest shareholder is Marianne Johnson, 13.8%, 11.5 million shares valued at $780 million. Marianne Boyd Johnson is the chairman, executive vice president, and chief diversity officer at Boyd Gaming. She's been working there since 2001, 24 years. I wonder if she got the job because her name is Boyd. That was sarcasm. William Boyd, the second biggest shareholder at 10%. The world's largest provider of mutual funds and the world's second largest provider of ETFs, Vanguard, owns 7.6%. The giant asset manager BlackRock, 7.5%. The Boyd Family Trust, 3%. Fidelity, 1.6%. JP Morgan, 1.4%. The CEO, 1.2%. And to round out the list, Millennium Management LLC, 0.8%. They have a lot of employees. It was 18,000 in 2014, 24,000 in 2019, but it looks like they cut a lot of people down to 16,000. And the ticker trades on the New York Stock Exchange and Deutsche Börse. So if you want a copy of my discounted cash flow model, click on the video in the top right corner.